creative people, and welcome to my week 2 Seek, Gather, Create project. This week, we were asked to gather something from a magazine, which I've got a little stack there, something with a number, which I've got a flashcard and a bingo card, a postmark stamp, which I have on that old envelope, and then something handwritten by somebody else, and I've got that letter and the it's a piece of paper. I have a whole notebook full of this handwriting. It's from somebody that did genealogy, I believe. So what I decided was I was going to take that flashcard and turn it into a tag fairly easily enough. And so I'm starting with how I start most everything is some collage. I'm taking that notebook paper with the genealogy stuff on it and my Uhu glue stick, and I'm going to stick that down along with some other stuff. So, what is the Seek, Gather, Create challenge? Well, it is a mixed media scavenger hunt that's going on Instagram. It is hosted by Lisa, Tina, Laura, and Melanie. I will have links to their Instagrams below as well as their YouTube channels if they have one. So you'll find all that from them. But basically, they give each week, this is like I said, week 2, they're giving 4 items that you have to go and find, whether that's in your craft room or outside or just somewhere in your house, and then incorporate that into some art. So easy enough. It is fun. I think I said this in my last video. After doing the daily challenge that was ICAD, and before that, the 100-day project, it's nice to have just a weekly challenge. And I said that last week, but then the same day my video came out, Tiffany, Dee Dee, and oh my gosh, Kristen Peterson decided to do the Ugly Art Club daily project. So I'm doing that, but it's only a 5-minute project. And actually, I incorporated this project, this Seek, Gather, Create project, in with my 5-minute project. So here we're still working within that 5 minutes at this point. Yeah, and you can find that picture on Instagram but you can see it right here. This is about what I got completed for my 5-minute project for that day. But all I put down there was some chalkboard paint. I got that from the Dollar Tree, and it's kind of almost like a black gesso when you put it down because it's so matte and opaque. But I've just kind of been playing with that a little bit, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with it in a minute. Now, one of my thoughts when I was looking for something from a magazine was I've got these pages from National Geographic that I altered with Citrusolve. If you haven't seen that, I know there's quite a few people out there with tutorials on that. I think, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think who it is. I think Erin has one. I'll try to find a link to it and put it below or put it up here in the right corner for you. But basically, you take this cleaning solvent and you put it in a National Geographic magazine, and it makes this super neat effect. So I'm using some of those pages and just kind of making these O's. Just cutting out these O's. And here I was at the Dollar Tree the day that I did this and picked up this chalk writer, which I thought was going to be some kind of like chalk marker. It's not. It's more like a crayon, like a distress crayon in its texture. So I went ahead and I was like, well, I wanted to use it. We're going to go ahead and use it. I'm going to play with it some more later. But for now, I just put a couple of dots inside my little chalkboard paint, little doodad marks. And now I'm grabbing those circles or O's, or I don't know what you want to call them. I guess they're ovals that I cut from my Citrusolve National Geographic. And I was trying to figure out how else to work in something from a magazine. So I've got this little picture of a house that's a black and white picture, and immediately knew that wasn't going to work. But I did have this strip of like illustrated eyes. I don't even know, y'all. It was just in my stash. It caught my eye. And so I thought I'd grab those. And then I also remembered I needed to work in this postage stamp. So I am getting it torn down. Now that letter is from You can see the airmail marks on it. It's from the 60s and it's from England. And so it's got a stamp on it. I think it must be the Queen. So I'm gonna guess it's the Queen. So I'm gonna use her somehow. But first I'm gonna cut down these eyes, and I decided they would fit perfectly, haha, behind my little circles. So, and I had no direction with this, y'all. I just know I had those 4 items I had to use, and I'm trying to use them. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that Uhu glue stick and stick it all down with, again, no plan. My only plan was, hey, I've got this flashcard. It has numbers on it. Let's make a tag out of it. That was my plan. So some of these little things that I did had come to me. Do you ever wake up and think, oh, I know what I want to do with my art today? Well, that happens to me. And so I knew I wanted to put down some black um, marks with that chalkboard paint, and then there's another thing we're going to get to in a little bit that I also knew I wanted to do. And I also had a feeling about something about like these circles or ovally shapes that I wanted to put in here. So it was all just kind of like little bits and pieces of things. I didn't know how it was going to come together, but I was thinking about it as I was waking up this morning. So yeah, it's the card that the tag we're gonna have here in the end is not at all what I envisioned. But I didn't really have a vision, so it's just little bits and pieces of things. All right, so you see me sitting there looking at that, trying to figure out what else I need, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this stamp. I gotta do something with this stamp. So I decided I wanted to layer it with something, and while I was also at the Dollar Tree, I saw that they had these flour sack towels that I've never seen there before. And I've seen them at places like Walmart, but I've never seen them at the Dollar Tree. So I picked up 2 of them. They're 100% cotton, so I'm definitely going to try dyeing them in an eco dyer or rust bath, and see what they do there. But for now, while they're all pristine and white, I'm just cutting it down, and we're going to put just this little strip here behind the Queen. And so I'm going to look at that for a minute and decide I need to sew. So I grabbed some thread, and I really thought I was going to add some Stabilo there because that upper left corner was bothering me. It didn't have anything, so I end up just putting some more of that chalkboard paint down and drying it real quick because I didn't like that big old empty space there. So of course I'm going to add a couple dots in there just so it matches the rest of them. Got to be matchy. All right, so I am going to start to thread my needle, but then I decide I need to go ahead and tack down my fabric and my stamp. I'll do that in just a minute. First, I am separating my threads of some embroidery floss I pulled out. That embroidery floss is kind of a peachy brown color that I thought matched those ovals, kind of. So that's what I've got there. And here's where I'm like, oh yeah, I ought to stick this down so my glue's not wet while I try to sew this. So, yeah. So I'm going to stick those down, and then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to make a knot. Actually, I think I make like 3 knots in the bottom of this because normally I would just do 2, but they didn't overlap. Okay. Sorry. Simple frustrations. So, and I am going to keep my sewing in here so that y'all can see this because this was the other thing that I kind of dreamed were these like rays of thread extending from something. And it's something I think I'm definitely going to try again with other like more than one color, but for this time I just kind of wanted to try it out. It's something I've been wanting to do and I'm doing it. That's that's what art is for sometimes, is to just do it. So, you see here on the front, I'm poking the holes kind of where I want my thread to go so that it's not any guesswork because I knew I wanted these straight rays coming out. So, it wasn't so much guesswork coming from behind. Yep. So, and like I said, I'm kind of working from underneath like almost a straight line. It's not completely a straight, but almost a straight line from my postage stamp out, and I'm making each of those rays like different lengths coming off. just so that it, I don't know, when you were a little kid and you draw the sun and all the rays would be not different lengths, but you'd have a long one, short one, long one, short one, long one, short one. Was that just me? Um, but that's kind of what I wanted to do with these varying lengths so that it didn't seem so consistent. So, and like I said, I really want to try this again because this is like seriously my favorite part of this whole card. And yeah, it's all I want to do now is add these straight lines. If you've watched some of my iCads recently, I think I did in my neurographic one, probably. I talked about how I really have been digging making these like long skinny lines. And so that's kind of the same kind of idea, I think, here. Something about these long, skinny lines. And this is dealing with thread, basically. So there I've got rays extending out from the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead, and tack down that little bit of fabric at the top and look at this for a minute and decide I really wanted some of that thread up at the top as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do something a little, I'm not going to do, yeah, see, I'm looking at it. Do I really want that up there? So I'm going to go ahead and poke my hole and I'm going to work kind of from that same one hole. I'm going to go straight up and then I know I want, so I'm just going to do basically 3 lines here and go back into that same central hole there. So I've got my second line and then I'm going to do a third one there. And then I'm going to poke one last hole and make a little French knot. French knots are pretty easy. It takes a little bit of practice, but basically you pull your thread up. You're going to wrap it around the needle a couple of times, 2 more, depending on how big you want your little knot. And then you're going to go back in another hole, not in the same hole, or you'll pull it apart. So that's kind of a quick and dirty French knot. So now I am tying off my thread real quick and snipping it. And then I'm going to look at this again, and I think here is where I decide, yep, I'm going to go ahead and use my Stabilo and go around and frame out this tag. So when did I mention it at the beginning? For some reason, I decided that it would be really good to work on the shiny side. There's like a shiny and a matte side of these flashcards, and for some crazy reason, I decided to work on the shiny side. That was I made that consciously as a decision, but I don't know why, y'all. It was not a good decision. I don't know if I thought I was going to do something on the back later, but it makes it so stuff like the Stabilo and something I'm going to come in here in a minute with are just, they don't want to stay on this card. So, if you have the chance to just work on the matte side of something, just work on the matte side. Don't try to complicate things like I did. All right, so I'm going to make this a tag and add a hole in it in a minute, but I needed, I don't know, some fringy stuff that's going to come out of that hole off the top. So I took some more of that flour sack, and then I've got part of a rag rug that I've cut down. DD Catron's done that recently, but I've cut mine years ago, and y'all, I just bought another rag rug. I've already got 2 cut down and I just bought a third because I love that surprise of tearing it apart and finding fabric. All right, so I'm poking my hole and I'm kind of just finding the center of everything. I'm not being exact about this at all. So I'm just folding this in half, and y'all, I'm going to take another piece of, it's a piece of thread basically, and poke that into my hole to help pull that chunk of that other stuff through. It's just an easy threading method when you've got a big old chunk like that. It's just a little trick. If you don't know that one, it really does make things a little bit easier when you've got all that stuff you're trying to thread. So I'm tightening up that knot, and then I'm just going to boop, cut that off. Boop, just like that. And then I decide I need some words, and I went through some other words, y'all. I cut that out. Y'all don't need to say that. I knew kind of what I wanted this to say, so I pulled out these Big Chat or Big Talk or whatever they are stickers from Tim Holtz, and I'm going to find the words "Watch Me Shine." because I've got all those eyes watching, and then the rays that are coming out of my queen stamp look like sun rays. So yeah, I it just needed to say that. It just had to. So I'm going to stick those down and then take my Pilot V5 to just go around it just a little bit. I didn't want to use the Stabilo on there, but I did want it to, I don't know, not really have a shadow, but yeah. And my battery dies while I'm doing it, so it's gonna, yeah, there my battery died. And so here I am coming in and going around that. And then I'm gonna decide here in a second that the stamp and some of the handwriting stuff on it has blue on it, but I needed more blue on this card. So I pull out an Inktense pencil and then uh, a distress crayon and cracked sapphire, I think. And I decided that distress crayon is closer to the color I want because I tested those just to kind of see what shades would come out of them. And here's where I'm going to right there. It's shiny and everything just disappears. Do y'all see that? Oh, it made me so mad. And so I was like, why did I do this shiny surface? But I'm just going to activate this blue, trying to get a little more blue in there. Some of the blue disappears there too because it's shiny there. So I'm going to add a little bit more blue on this bottom corner. And then I'm going to try back again at the top corner. Because yeah, it was just making me mad that it just, like right there, I rubbed it right off. So yeah, I'm gonna put a little more down, and then I'm gonna just say stop futzing with it, just be done. And that is my card. Make sure you check out some of the links I have below. Let me know if you have any questions, and I really appreciate you watching. Thanks so much. Keep on crafting on. Bye.